Hello and welcome to Series 10, Episode 2 of In Suspense, a podcast and vodcast for fans and writers of crime fiction. I'm Lesley Cara and I'm here today with the fabulous Lauren North.
Hello.
Hello, Lauren. And in our last episode, Lauren and Niki Smith chatted to BP Walter about his latest book, Notes on a Murder. And my goodness, wasn't Barnaby a fabulous guest? I got quite jealous that I wasn't part of that episode.
Yeah, he was amazing. He's such a lovely person and he had such insight on dark scenes. I certainly have taken quite a lot away from it about when to add darkness and when not to. So that it was, really fascinating chat. Yes.
Definitely.
But on today's episode, we're going to be talking to someone I've wanted to bring on the show for a long time, and that's Lisa Hall. And our topic is mixing it up, how to successfully blend genres, which is going to be very interesting.
It is, and I've got my pencil and paper ready here to take extensive notes because I think it's going to be a fascinating discussion, as all our discussions In Suspense are. Obviously, we don't there's no hierarchy. They're all good. They're all good. But I was listening to the On the Sofa podcast a few days ago with Victoria. Well, I wasn't listening with Victoria. She wasn't in the room with me, but
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, me and Victoria sitting down listening to her podcast.
You feel like you're sitting next to them.
And they were talking about, I think she had sort of various guests on, David Headley and other people from the publishing industry, and they were talking about how, what we've been saying for years, really, that the psychological thriller market is really quite saturated at the moment. And in order for something to really stand out, it's got to do something a little bit different now, which is exactly what Lisa Hall obviously is doing. So I think that will be something to make notes on, definitely. But before we get on to that topic, a little birdie. I mean, I'd say Twitter, but it's not Twitter anymore. It's X. It's not the same, is it?
Oh, it's not. No.
A little X told me that Lauren, you've been flitting about all over the place in a lovely new skirt.
I know, I treated myself. Well, I treated myself to a new skirt. It's a slightly different style for me because it's my birthday this week. So I was sort of decided I would treat myself. And yes, I had my announcement last week that I have signed 2 new books with Picoult, which is very exciting. And I popped up to London to go to their offices and say hi and meet Jenny and all the team and my editor Lucy, which was lovely. I've met them all before, but it's just really nice. They were all really welcoming and got to have a photo on the top of the roof garden of the Hachette offices, which was really lovely. And yeah, I've also had some great meetings about my Elsie North book Clickbait, and my page proof just arrived today, which is really exciting. So yeah, it's quite busy, I think, at the moment, but in a not crazy way. But what about you, Lesley? How is Tunbridge Wells? We were just having a chat about exercise, weren't we, just before we pressed record?
Yes, we were, because I've joined a local health club and on a sort of mission to save Lesley Cara's body before it completely disintegrates. And I've been doing all sorts of things, TRX, have you heard of that? Total body resistance exercise, where you do things with
band.
All very, very marvelous, very tiring, but fun. I've been enjoying it. And yesterday I did a sort of weight training thing, body conditioning, where you're moving 6 different stations.
I like those ones. Yeah,
I mean, it was fun. I really enjoyed it, apart from one particular one, which honestly I couldn't do. And it was so embarrassing because at one point the teacher said, "Let's all give Lesley some encouragement."
Oh God,
and they were all shouting, "Come on, Lesley, you can do it." And
no.
I just wanted to sort of die, but it was quite funny.
I know, but I'm like that. There are things I can't do. I can't do mountain climbers. I'm sorry, but they're just so hard. I can't do them. And every time it's like I have to do them, I just pretend to do them. I never do them.
Oh, do you know, today, I mean, apologies to everyone for the graphic image this might bring up, but even my buttocks are aching from doing it.
That's a good sign, though, isn't it? Muscle.
It is a good sign. It is a good sign. But anyway, I'm loving you. You did ask me about Tunbridge Wells before. Yes. I'm loving living here and loving being so close to London. But I was all set to go up to London. Up to London? Yeah, it is up, isn't it? Yeah, now. It used to be down for me. Now it's up. I've got to get used to it. To go to a couple of launches, but unfortunately I double booked, and my brother, well, it's not unfortunate that my brother was coming to stay because it was lovely that they did, But, you know, my diary management skills clearly need improving, don't they?
It's so easy to do though, isn't it? Because sometimes you think, oh, that's so far in the future. Of course, I'm free. And actually you think, I mean, I've literally just this minute before we came on air, bought myself a 2024 diary because I've already now got in the back of the 2023 diary a long list of things I'm supposed to be doing at certain points. And I'm just getting a bit like, how is my diary getting so booked up for 24 already? So
that's on my to-do list as well, buy new diary. That's funny you should say that, because I was thinking about that this morning, you know, because the back of my diary is got no more room for any notes. So.
Yes.
Now, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, but I did manage to squeeze in a lovely lunch with my agent,
yes, I saw the pictures,
and that was very nice. And we were discussing exciting plans and the new book, which I am now starting on and planning. And that's always really exciting, isn't it, being at that stage?
Yes.
It's so full of potential. I get terribly excited at that. I know, you know, in a few months I'll be tearing my hair out with it probably, but at the moment I'm really relishing sitting down to work, and that's so lovely.
It's such a nice feeling. I wrote chapter 1 of a new book today, which is just so exciting, isn't it? Like you say, it's just that feeling that there's so much potential and possibility before you get bogged down in the detail of it. It's really
but you know, I've lost track of what you're doing because you've got so many books coming out soon. That just update me. Where are you?
So I've got my next Bookouture book is out in February, and that's written. My second other Bookouture book is out in the summer, and that's what I've just started today. And then I've got the paperback of The Ugly Truth coming out in January, and in April Clickbait, which is going to be, I think, the same similar date to when you've got your next book coming out as well.
Gosh, so you must be in a permanent state of excitement, Lauren.
Well, it's quite quiet now because this year has been a bit like that as well, with like current books coming out and constant emails, and it has been quite exciting. So I've actually quite enjoyed, I think, having a bit more calm now actually. And like I'm not really supposed to start writing this book yet. I'm starting in October officially, and I just think I've got a really nice block of about 8 to 10 weeks just to really crack on with it, which just feels really nice.
So the book you're just starting is coming out next summer.
Yes,
it's getting my head around that sort of, it's much quicker, isn't it?
It is quicker. And then my next LC North book, which will be my third book, I'm going to start writing after Christmas, but I don't think that will be ready to come out in 2025, which is what you and Niki, you're writing your 2025 books now. So I'm going to be a bit behind. I think it will be coming out in 26 actually, which is fine.
But still incredible. Well done, you.
We'll see. It's like the marathon training. I'm just, everyone's like, isn't it amazing? And I was like, well, I haven't done it yet, so we'll see. But now I think it's probably time to get Lisa Hall onto the show. So without further ado, welcome Lisa to In Suspense.
Welcome Lisa Hall to In Suspense. We're delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And Lisa, we love it when our guests introduce themselves and read out their bio or tell us about themselves and their books. So can you start us off by giving our listeners a little flavour of who Lisa Hall is?
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm Lisa Hall. I'm the author of 6 psychological thrillers, and I've just written a time slip murder mystery type thing set in Hollywood in 1949. It's about a girl called Lily Jones who's working in Hollywood in the present day, and she wants to be a movie producer, but she's ended up working in the Beverly Hills as a chambermaid. And then there is an accident, and she wakes up in 1949, 2 weeks before a movie star is about to be murdered. So she has 2 weeks to stop the murder.
And I was going to ask you all about that in a little while. But before we do, you've been very modest. Your debut novel, You and Me, which you didn't mention, was a Kindle UK #1 bestseller, wasn't it?
Yes,
sitting in the top spot for over 4 weeks. So that was amazing. And you've got a first-class honours degree in English literature and creative writing. So that's very impressive. We find our guests are terribly modest and they don't sort of big themselves up. So
and you don't want to look like a big head in front of everyone.
No. Oh, thank you, Lisa. And we can't wait to talk to you in a bit more detail about your latest book, The Mysterious Double Death of Honey Black. Fantastic title, of which A.A. Chowdhury has said, a flawlessly plotted, seriously addictive read, brimming with intrigue, suspense, colourful characters and old-school Hollywood glamour. Lisa Hall's first time-hop crime mystery is an absolute triumph. Just loved it. More, please. And also last week's guest, BP Walter, also described it as glamorous, compelling and completely addictive. This sparkling page-turner is a total joy to read. Both of which descriptions I thoroughly endorse. It's an absolutely fantastic premise, Lisa. Well done for coming up with that. I'm incredibly jealous.
I know, that's exactly how
really
I
big
felt.
head now after all of that.
I think that's the first thing I said on Twitter was I hate you for being so amazing to be able to write such great thrillers and then just to bat this one out the park as well. It's amazing. And I absolutely love the book, as you know. I am in complete awe that you can write two different types of genres. So my first question is, have you always been a fan of Hollywood movies and the golden age of Hollywood in particular? And was this where the inspiration for the book came from?
I have always loved movies, not just old movies, all movies, but my granddad used to love watching old movies, so I grew up watching a lot of them. But that wasn't really the inspiration for the book. The inspiration for the book, it was the pandemic and we were all trapped inside, and I watched this TV show with my husband about the world's greatest hotels or something, and they featured the Beverly Hills. And there is actually a suite in the Beverly Hills Hotel called the Paul Williams Suite that is kept as it was decorated, I suppose, by him or designed by him in 1948. And I said to my husband, clearly I had a bit of cabin fever, and I said to my husband, but if you went out and you got really drunk, like how would you know the next morning when you woke up? You wouldn't know what year it was. And then by the morning, I had this whole idea of like this girl finds herself back in 1949 and she knows there's going to be this murder, but obviously no one else around her knows. So it kind of came from there rather than old movies as such.
Oh, that's amazing. And I imagine it must have been such great fun to research. Did it involve watching a lot of movies from the 40s and 50s?
It was like the perfect excuse. Oh, I can't. I'm researching, and then a lot of time on the sofa with the dog watching old films. So yeah, it was the perfect excuse.
Gosh, yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? To write a book where you have to research something that's going to be fun and that you can do in your PJs on the sofa. And I really loved the fact that you brought in real life Hollywood stars, didn't you? Like Bing Crosby and James Dean, but before they were really famous. And which makes me wonder whether your main character, Lily Jones, isn't it? Whether she's based on or maybe inspired by a real life Hollywood actress, or whether she's perhaps, an amalgamation of several.
I would say Lily's not really based on any sort of actress or anything. Lily's very much a 21st century girl, but Honey is definitely an amalgamation of lots of actresses. When I was doing my research, it was so scandalous, the things that happened to all these poor women, that they couldn't speak out about it, and if they did speak out about it, it could potentially be the end of their career. So I mean, there's loads of rumors about Judy Garland when she was in The Wizard of Oz, like she was allegedly assaulted by munchkins, which is the weirdest thing to picture ever. And everybody knows that she had problems with drug and alcohol abuse. So Honey was kind of an amalgamation of all these different actresses, but before they really got abused and thrown around and mistreated by Hollywood. So Honey's very much, she's had some terrible things happen to her, but she's still kind of a little bit naive, and she still thinks that everything's going to be amazing and brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, that was sweet. And I particularly liked that it was, there were some really funny moments where Lily forgot what century she was in and said things which just made absolutely no sense to anyone around her. And Lily desperately wants to Google things as well, which is hilarious. But obviously can't because she's back in the 1940s. Do you think it's easier to include comic touches like this in a hybrid genre with the time slip than and elements of cozy crime in it, or do you think there's always room for humor even in some of the darker thrillers and crime fiction?
I think it's definitely easier to do it with this hybrid time slip cozy type thing. It's definitely easier, and it would be lovely to say that there could be humor in all crime, but I think it's very difficult, especially with the kind of things that we all write normally, like the psychological suspense and domestic noir, that kind of thing. We're quite often dealing with things that are quite serious events that actually happen to people in real life, so it might be a bit distasteful to put some humor in there, you know.
Yeah,
I guess we have kind of, I guess some crime novels, even the darker ones, they have that sort of black, it's called black humor, isn't it, where it was sort of gallows humor, maybe between the detectives or something like that. But I love it when, you know, because cozy crime, it's sort of, it is, there are murders and there are awful things that happen, but it's not so graphic, is it? And it's kind of
murders.
yeah,
murders.
nice murders. So there's definitely that room for humor, and you do that so well. Yeah. That kind of brings us on nicely to today's topic, and we've named this episode "Mixing It Up: How to Successfully Blend Genres," because we were talking earlier when Lauren and I had our little introduction. We were talking about how, you know, various people in the publishing industry have said at the moment that the psychological thriller genre is sort of saturated, and so to stand out from the crowd, you've got to do something a bit different, and you've certainly done that, haven't you, with this? Because you've got, I think I counted up all the different types of genres. You've got definitely cozy crime in there, haven't you? You've got a bit of psychological thriller as well. You've got historical fiction because it's set back in the you know, the golden age of Hollywood in the 1940s, and you've got time travel, or, you know, a time slip rather, you know, time hop, which is, I guess, a sort of subgenre of science fiction, isn't it? So what was it that drew you to combine all those genres? Was it something you deliberately set out to do, or was this just a story that was burning to be told, and that's how it came to you?
Yeah, if I'm brutally honest, there was no intention at all.
Oh, really?
I had this idea that this girl was going to have this accident and find herself back in time, and she had to solve this murder, and there was no intention at all. I was the book wasn't, I wasn't in contract for this book or anything. It was like being back at the very beginning, you know, when you just have that first story idea and you don't really think about structure, or I didn't in the beginning. I was totally winging it. I didn't really think about structure or 3 acts or anything like that, or genre. I just kind of wrote the story. So I did the same with this, and it felt like going right back to the beginning, where you just kind of, you write the story, you know, the story that you want to put on the page, and you don't think about any restrictions that there might be. You just write. So that anything that I've done is completely unintentional.
That's brilliant.
That's so
and it just shows you, doesn't it, that it's a lesson to us all that we should write what we really want to write, not writing to the market or because someone thinks this is a good genre to get into, but because you had that passion for that story. That's fantastic. And I mean, I know that some aspiring writers, and there may well be some who are listening to this or watching us on YouTube, they get very frustrated. I know a lot of them are being told by agents and publishers that they shouldn't cross genres, you know, that they should decide what genre they're writing in, and that's what they must stick to, because on the whole, cross-genre submissions are thought to be not as marketable, are they? Because booksellers don't know where to put them. Should we put this in sci-fi or cozy crime or whatever? So I'm kind of really interested, but we're both really interested to know what you think are the do's and don'ts of writing a hybrid genre, and whether some perhaps work better than others.
Oh gosh,
it's a big question, isn't it?
Really good question. I think like you say, you have to keep the story at the forefront all the time, even if you have sat down and thought, right, I think I'm writing a psychological thriller, I think I'm writing a romance or whatever. Don't be within the genre or whatever mix up of genres that you want to include, but always remember that the story is at the forefront of everything. So when I wrote this book originally, there was a bit more sauce in it. A bit more saucy. Because I thought that originally, it was going to be a bit more of like a romancy type thing, and then this murder was like just hanging around in the background. And then I sent it to my agent, and she was like, no, there's a murder. Let's focus on the murder. So I think be flexible as well. I think keep the story at the forefront, but always be flexible. And sometimes the genre that you think you're writing in is not the genre that you're actually writing in.
Oh, that's such good advice.
That is good advice, isn't it? I think you're right. The story is key, isn't it? I was wondering whether there has to be, so I didn't sort of think about this when I was doing the questions, but it's just occurred to me. I was wondering whether if you are blending a handful of different genres, do you think one genre should predominate? Like say, it's maybe that's why your agent said, oh, it's got to be a murder, so it's got to be crime, with the others maybe threaded through. Do you think that works?
I think you can't have too much of a mashup, because then it really will be a nothing genre and no one will pick it up, because not even a reader will pick it up because they won't know what they're reading. So like I said, I thought it was a romance. Turns out I can't actually write romance. And then, but my agent was like, no, this is a crime. No, you have it. Because I was like, I was like, if it's not romance, surely it's women's fiction. And she was like, no, this is why I'm the agent. It's a crime.
Exactly.
Okay.
I love
and then
that.
once I kind of wrapped my head around the idea that, actually, even though it's not my usual thing, it is actually still a crime novel, then everything kind of slotted into place a bit more easily. So I think you do need to know what the main bulk of the story, the genre, is going to be for that, definitely.
Oh, I think that's great advice. and that leads me on, because I was interested, you mentioned your agent as well. How did you approach this book with them? Because it's always weird when you're out of contract and everyone's sort of waiting to see what you're going to do. So did you write it first, sort of sneakily, without mentioning it to them, and then sort of send it over when it was done, or did you like float the idea and have a chat about it first?
I am so lucky, I have to say that first, with my agent. She really goes with the flow with everything, which is really good. But basically at that time I was out of contract. I'd fulfilled my contract with my current publisher and I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. She said, take the summer off. There was this whole pandemic thing, all the kids were at home. So as far as she was aware, I was taking the summer off, but I didn't. I wrote this, at the time it was quite terrible romance book. And I sent it to her without saying it. I just sent it to her and I said, I know I'm supposed to have a rest, but I've written this thing and just have a look. And if you think we should put it in the bin, we'll put it in the bin. And it was it literally was just touching 70,000 words. So it was barely a novel, and thankfully she was really excited and she sent it back to me and she said, I love it, but and then I spent the next 2 years rewriting it over and over and over until she got it to the point that she was happy for it to go out on sub. And I kind of knew that the publisher I was with, I didn't really want it to go to them because I'd done psychological thrillers before with them. I didn't feel that it would be the right home for them. And luckily, it got picked up by Heron. And they were so excited that any doubts that I had just kind of melted away. Because even though my agent was excited, I still had that thing of like, this is not what I write. And this is what people are going to say when they pick it up. They're going to say, oh, she doesn't write this. So yeah, I was very lucky.
You can tell from the cover that it's not a thriller, isn't it? Like, I think we have to give readers a bit more credit sometimes than I think that publishers want them to have.
I agree.
Just out of curiosity, who is your agent, Lisa? Because I know we get quite a lot of aspiring authors out on submission listening to the show.
My agent is Lisa Moyler at CMM, and she is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, well, that's a good shout out then. And do you plan to keep writing your psychological thrillers as well as this series? Is that the plan to a year, or how are you going to do it?
Yeah, at the moment. So while I was writing Honey, I was also writing a psychological thriller on the side, because I obviously had that fear that Honey was just going to go in the bin. And that is out on the 10th of October, my new one, and that was picked up in a 2-book deal. So there will be another psychological thriller next year as well, and another Honey book. So
I'm relieved to hear that. I think definitely carry on with both, because they're both so successful, aren't they? I'd love to know how you found the process of writing in a different genre after writing, so solidly in the thriller genre for is it 6 novels? I mean, was that hard, or I guess you've kind of already answered that in a way. You sort of, I was going to say whether you found it liberating, but you sort of obviously did in a way, didn't you? Because you were doing
it was so fun. It was so fun. Like I say, it was like writing a debut, because there was nothing, no one knew about it. No one knew about it. It was, there was no expectations, no deadline, nothing. So it was really fun, and it was nice to do something that was not as dark. When research is watching Gaslight and eating Maltesers on the sofa, it's a lot nicer than sort of researching missing girls and violence and horrible things. So yeah, it was brilliant fun.
So I think it's a bit of a palate cleanser as well, isn't it? Because then you can go back to the thrillers and remember what you loved about it as well, with the darkness, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I could not write thrillers anymore.
Good. I'm sure there's lots of people very happy to hear that, including myself.
Definitely.
And I know from my own experience that it can be quite a juggling act when you are writing sort of 2 books a year for 2 different publishers. I always write 1 book and then the next book, but I wondered how you managed it and will continue to manage it. And can you talk us a bit through how your writing routine, sort of how it works?
Well, I'm quite similar to you. I tried the whole, work on 1 in the morning, work on 1 in the afternoon. No. It went horribly wrong. I was like, no, I can't do this. So I do tend to work on 1 at a time. I find, so I'm a little bit ahead with with the Honey Black stuff. So the next book is already written, and I'm working on the edits for that now. But for the first draft that I'm writing, I've started writing it, but everything's completely planned out. So I feel quite comfortable taking a little bit of time away from that now to just get the edits done, and then go full pelt on that one, and then go back.
Yeah, that sounds a sensible way, and no context switching. And I am going to veer slightly off topic here and take a moment to chat quickly about your debut thriller, Between You and Me. I don't want to go into any detail or give away any spoilers, but it's safe to say that the amazing twist at the end threw a lot of readers. And I know that you've had, and probably still have, readers messaging you constantly about the ending. I mean, it is lovely when readers get in touch, but harder when they want to pick over the story. So I just wondered how you deal with that element as being part of an author.
I always love to hear from readers, unless you've tagged me in a bad review, in which case I don't want to hear from you. Thanks. No, I always love to hear from them, and I do still get a lot of messages about the ending of that book, and I'm more than happy, if people aren't sure about it, I'm more than happy to explain it. But to the guy on Twitter who has repeatedly picked apart every novel in my DMs, told me that my protagonist wasn't really a protagonist, all kinds of things. That I just kind of ignore. I think I will always reply if I see your message. I will always reply and say, thank you very much, I'm glad you enjoyed it, or like I say, if they want an explanation, that's not a problem. But I think when people want to pick apart the book and tell you what you did wrong on your book, I always think, I'm not dead, and this is not A-level English. I know
so true.
Then you can't. And I just think there is absolutely no point in getting involved in a discussion with people like that, because they will honestly believe that they are 100% right, and it's just not worth the time and effort. Not when you have 2 books to write.
Yes. That sounds like a very healthy way to do it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And finally, what advice, well, not quite finally, but what advice would you give to authors out there who maybe do want to take their writing in a different direction as you did? What nugget of advice would you give them?
Just be brave. Just give it a try. If you don't try, it might not work. I was not convinced that this book worked until it had gone to my agent. But I kind of felt like even if it's not right and it doesn't, and it goes in the bin, it's out of my system. I've done it. So I think you have to be brave, because if you don't try, then you don't know.
No, that's really good advice. I think we could all do with being a little bit braver, couldn't we? And following our creative urges, wherever they take us. But we'd also like to ask you, because you've written a cross-genre read, do you have a favourite cross-genre read?
Really, this doesn't sound really bad. I don't think I really read cross-genre stuff, or I don't sort of set out to read cross-genre stuff. I'm very much a reader. I read any genre as long as the story appeals to me. So I'm not, but I do like a time slip. I do like a bit of Outlander.
Oh, Outlander, yeah.
In that series now.
I loved I know it's quite a while ago now, but The Time Traveller's Wife, I absolutely loved that.
Oh my goodness.
Beautiful
So
book.
beautiful.
I love anything like that. Anything that's a little bit different, I think.
Yeah.
And what are you currently reading, or is there any book that you'd like to recommend to our readers, or books that you're about to read that haven't yet?
I just finished Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult, and that was really good. Very, very much enjoyed that. But at the moment,
she co-wrote that with somebody, didn't she?
She did, yes. She did, and that was a very good book. I wouldn't say there's so much of a twist, but there is a reveal that I really didn't see it coming, and it completely changed the whole rest of the book. I loved it. But at the moment, I'm reading the least crimey book in the world. I am reading Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score.
Okay.
A bit spicy.
Yeah.
Ooh. Spicier than I'm used to.
I like that. What about you, Lauren?
I have just finished at the weekend The Due Date by Niki Mackay, which was brilliant. It's all about that bond of friendship that you develop when you're either heavily pregnant or you've just had a baby with someone in the same situation. And obviously, as thriller writers, we can all think, how's this going to go wrong? And it was just a brilliant book. I just gobbled it up, and that was brilliant. And I've just started reading Killer Bodies by Heleen Kist, which I'm really enjoying as well. And so my two books at the moment. Yes, what about you, Lesley?
Well, I am reading quite a lot at the moment. I'm reading the entire oeuvre, I can't ever say that, of Mick Heron.
Said it better than me. Oh,
starting with Slough House. And I'm also watching the Slow Horses. There's an TV adaptation of this series on Apple TV. And I just realised the other day that because I have Sky Stream, I'm entitled to 6 months free.
Yes, we've done that.
So I signed up quickly, and I'm watching that. And so I've got a couple of his to read, and I'm going to read his latest. I think it's called The Secret Hours, because I'm going to be interviewing him in October. So I need to.
Where are you going to be interviewing him?
At the Frinton Literary Festival.
Oh, lovely. Oh, wonderful. They still let you back now, even though
they do. They let me back.
That's nice.
Just so long as I sing for my supper and host the Crime and Wine evening.
Yeah, of course.
I've also been reading, I've just started. Can you see that?
Yes,
Five Nights by Rachel Wolfe. Friend of the show, as they say in podcast parlance. Yes. So
that's a great cover.
It is a great cover. Yes. I'm sorry, I was trying to get it to come out big on my screen.
Oh, no, it looked great. Yeah.
It kept sort of disappearing. But so lots of good book recommendations.
Definitely. And before we close the show, Lisa, you mentioned that your thriller's out coming up next month. Do you want to just give us a bit of a spiel and a shout out for that one, as well as the Honey Black book?
Yeah, I can do. It's called The Day She Disappeared. And it's about a journalist called Becky, and her mother dies, and she goes back to the island that she grew up on, that she left 16 years before, after some really bad stuff happened. I can't tell you what that is. So she goes back, and there's a traveller community on the island. One of the traveller girls, a teenage girl's gone missing, and no one really seems to be that bothered. but Becky starts digging away, and things from her past come back to haunt her, like they always do in a psychological thriller. And then another girl goes missing on the island.
Oh, that's brilliant. That sounds
very
great.
sinister, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And that's out on the 10th of October, is it?
October, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, very sadly, we have to draw this to a close now. So I'd like to say thank you very much, Lisa, for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
So just to remind everyone that Lisa Hall's latest book, The Mysterious Double Death of Honey Black, which both Lesley and I can highly recommend, is out on the 21st of September, which is also my birthday.
And it's a big birthday, isn't it?
I'm 40, yes.
I was going to say 30 again.
I don't think I could pass for 30.
Yeah, it's been wonderful talking to you, Lisa, and we wish you the greatest of success with your new series, and we'll be reading every single one of them because we loved it so much.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
And in case you didn't know, readers, listeners, whatever you call you, viewers, watchers, podcast
enthusiasts.
Yes, whatever. Our next series of minisodes with Agents Assistant Alice Hoskins has already started, and minisode 2 will come out next week, where I think next week is subbing to agents. Is that right, Lauren?
It could be. I've lost track.
It is.
As usual at this time.
I'm pretty sure it's subbing to agents, but whatever the topic, it will be interesting.
Yes.
Alice was fabulous. So if you haven't listened to the first one yet, you've got plenty of time to catch up. And the week after that, we'll be chatting to debut author Alex Hay about his dazzling new novel, A Historical Revenge Heist. So we're definitely going down the historical, going down a little historical avenue, aren't we?
Yes. And I met Alex at the Harrogate Crime Writing Festival, and he's so lovely. So I imagine it's going to be an amazing interview.
Yeah.
In the meantime, do get in touch across any of our social media channels if you have any topics you'd like us to cover. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, then please rate and review on whatever platform you're listening on so that others can find us. But for now, it's goodbye from Lisa. Goodbye, Lisa.
Bye, thank you.
And it's goodbye from Lesley Carver as well.
Bye.
And it's goodbye from me. Bye.